but there's also chemicals in our cells that affect what genes are turned on and off, and how quickly they're turned on and off, and when they're turned on and off. And we've discovered that behavior and how we're treated as we're growing and developing can affect those chemicals that then affect our DNA. And so twins, identical twins, might be affected with their epigenetics in different ways and have very different characteristics. One might be autistic and one might be going to Harvard. It has happened. And we've learned that with animals, if we change the epigenetic markers by having them nurtured when they're young or having them abandoned when they're young, completely changes their genetics and changes whether they're more aggressive, their behaviors, all kinds of things. And so this is really exciting research, and it's brand new, and it's not revelation, but it helps us understand where we're going with our spiritual lives as well.
Are those changes brought about by the environmental circumstances transmittable to the next generation?
Yes. And the next, and the next.
Okay.
And they're also reversible.
That's good, Doctor.
So Swedenborg writes in Spiritual Experiences that all things of heaven constantly have their foundation in the laws of the order of nature, in the world and in man, so that the foundation remains permanently fixed. And in Arcana Celestia, indeed, nobody is forbidden to acquire knowledge, since it is useful for life and gives delight. And the person in whom faith resides is in no way forbidden to think and to talk as learned people in the world do. But his premise must be the Lord, not self, because the former is life and the latter is death. So the goal of science education at Bryn Athyn College is twofold. First, we want to help students learn and practice the natural sciences for good uses in the world. We want them to learn credible scientific method and be able to talk with scientists around the world from all faiths, from all nations. And the second thing is to promote spiritual growth in the students and therefore also in the church. So, we know that the natural world and the spiritual world are discrete degrees. That's why there's the line in the middle. But the natural world is the foundation for the spiritual world. And there are correspondences between everything in nature in the spiritual world. So New Church scientists can view the world with exciting perspectives based on the correspondences of the natural and the spiritual. And unique hypotheses might be formed by this understanding. And the New Church has a unique understanding of this connection. I don't think that the New Church scientists are the only ones that have this perspective, but they have a deeper understanding from reading the revelation given to the New Church. But the process of science in the New Church is no different than the process of science anywhere else. Observations are followed by questions, by hypotheses. They may have to be tested, retested, come to conclusions, and then you have to get it out there for other people to retest, reproduce, peer review, make sure that they fit in with the laws of nature as we understand them. And if they don't, you got to go back to the beginning and start over again. Okay. So, in answer to the question again, is there such a thing as new church science? The answer is no. Because teaching science in the new church does not mean teaching a different brand of science or a different method of science than you would get anywhere else in the world. But it does mean teaching science in the context of a deeper understanding of the grander scheme of things that we don't often get in other colleges. So now I wanted to use an example to talk about this a little bit. And so our next question is new church doctrine compatible with the theory of evolution? Swedenborg writes in Arcana Celestia that man is solely a recipient of life, whereas the Lord is life itself. Next slide, please. So the answer, is new church doctrine compatible with the theory of evolution, is yes, of course. What is a scientific theory? When most people think about theory, if they're not a scientist, they often think, well, I just have a theory about that. And what they really mean to say is, well, I just have this hunch, or I have a hypothesis. They're not talking about a scientific theory. A scientific theory is a truth that's accepted by the scientific world. It means that lots of investigation has gone into it. Lots of hypotheses have been put forth. Lots of experiments have been done. Everything supports this particular theory. Usually hundreds of years of experimentation and support before you can call something a scientific theory. And in the case of evolution, there's been 200 years of scientific investigation, and all the evidence supports the theory of a continual process known as evolution in the world. Now, we call it a theory in part because it can still be refined. There's still work to do. There's still stuff to learn. I mean, there's always stuff to learn. And then we have these laws of nature, and we think of the Lord creating the laws of nature, and we think of the law of gravity, and there's certain physical laws. And those laws basically are accepted at the same level as a scientific theory. And I don't really know why some things are called laws and some things are called theories, except that I feel like a law sort of describes a single event that recurs, whereas a theory describes a process or something we don't completely understand, but all the evidence supports the truth of the theory. And so we go back to Newton and Einstein here. Newton came up with the law of gravity, but it turns out that law of gravity doesn't work outside of our space and time. And if you start moving at the speed of light, it doesn't hold anymore. So there's the theory of relativity that Einstein came up with. But they both explain the same phenomenon. I mean, the theory of relativity includes the law of gravity, depending on what scale you're looking at it. So, just wanted to put that up there. Okay. So evolution. Charles Darwin, the father of evolutionary theory, came up with the concepts of common descent. All life on Earth has a single origin, and we're all related. All living things on the Earth are related, and they all started at the same place. So all the evidence that we have ever since he came up with this theory, and he studied it